Well, it's now been 5 days since protests erupted in Cuba. This is becoming a wedge issue here in America, entering the White House briefing room where the press secretary is rebuffing questions over whether Cubans are fed up with communism. Some from Black Lives Matter are blaming America, and now Pitbull, the one and only, wants billionaires to step up and help the pro-democracy movement in Cuba.
Global businesses get together to help people that we're so proud of, people such as a Jeff Bezos, Cuban American, graduated from a high school in Miami, built one of the biggest companies in the world, the richest man in the world. He's somebody that can get involved and really help us on what we got. All we can do is create awareness, but politics are gonna be politricks. And while they figure out what they figure out, we need to figure out how to really help. We need to get creative. We need to figure out solutions while they're losing their lives over there literally for something that we wake up every day and appreciate, which is freedom. So to everybody out there, stand up, step up, and if you don't understand, get with the mother program and wake up. Because this is about freedom and it's about human rights.
All right, modern day regime change brought to you by Jeff Bezos and Pitbull, the Democratic strategist Andrew Feldman and Real Clear Politics reporter Philip Wegman join us now. Welcome to you both.
Good morning.
Good to be here.
So, Philip, is this Pitbull pressure the final push that the U.S. oligarchs needed to actually get, I don't know, cardboard boxes on the ground in Cuba?
Yeah, I'm not certain what the actual change is going to be coming from that video. I'm not certain what Pitbull's pressure ability is. Look, he's one guy who recorded a video. I'm not certain that the administration is going to be taking foreign policy advice from him. That said, Pitbull identifies one central thing, which is that these protests in Cuba are not about reactions to COVID. They're not about reactions to the economy. Yes, those things are probably part of the frustration, but the underlying concern of those protesters who are risking their lives in the streets of Cuba right now are about freedom. And he correctly identifies that core complaint. And, he clearly has relatives and family who have been affected by that regime there. And so good on him for using his voice.
Andrew, what do you think about that? What do you make of Pitbull's video calling for Jeff Bezos, obviously one of our wealthiest people in the world, but let alone in this country? What do you think of Pitbull calling on him to, enter this fray?
Look, I thought overall it was a powerful statement by Pitbull, and clearly, as Philip said, there's some real emotion there, probably brought from some personal connection. I'm not really sure what the Bezos line really has to do with this, though. I'm not really, I think that maybe Pitbull just threw his name in there as someone everyone knows, but I'm not really sure what Jeff Bezos could do on this. I'm not even sure, to be honest with you, if Cubans can get Amazon packages, unfortunately, in terms of them being able to choose and have the freedom to order Amazon if they wanted to. But the point is, I do think his message of needing to, understand what the people in the streets are calling for is really important. And look, I think it will, there's a lot of retweets of it on Twitter. I think it will. We're talking about it now. I think it will get coverage. At the end of the day, I'm not sure Jeff Bezos is going to respond to Pitbull, though.
So you're right. So Bezos is Cuban American. His father came here from Cuba. Pitbull, Cuban American. What Pitbull and Bezos's views, I don't know what Bezos's views represent are the kind of right-wing Miami Cubans, the South Florida Cuban community, and for them, they have always put their hostility toward the Cuban regime in terms of freedom, their desire for freedom.
Understandably so.
Sure. They
fled for freedom.
They fled.
They fled for. There are images of the Cuban government the Cuban police going door to door and arresting protesters emerging right now.
Right, and wait till you see some of the images of what the United States police do to protesters.
Oh, here we go again.
My point though is that Pitbull and Jeff Bezos do not speak for people in Cuba, and so there's no doubt that there is a universal desire for freedom, but there's also no doubt that the pandemic and the exacerbation of tourism collapsing on the island, and also the embargo preventing syringes and other medical supplies and other supplies driving the economy into the ground, which is deliberate United States policy. The United States policy is we will drive the Cuban economy into the ground so that people are so desperate that they overthrow their regime.
That is oppressing them. I mean, the Cuban government organizes the economy in a way that's not helpful to the Cuban people as well.
Well, it's not helpful because it brings about the embargo. If you compare the Cuban economy to the Haitian economy, to the Dominican Republic economy, to the most other economies around Latin America, and you separate out the effect of the embargo by a lot of metrics, economically they have been better off. They were absolutely crushed by the pandemic, for sure.
Well, let's toss this question to Philip, having been in the briefing room when Jen Psaki responded to the question about communism. Someone asked her in the briefing room the other day if she sees this as the fault of communism, which is definitely a line that the right is absolutely pursuing and using to argue against in this context. How do you think the Biden administration is going to handle striking this balance going forward when you have major groups like Black Lives Matter weighing in and squarely placing the blame on the United States government? That's a sort of difficult position to be in when you're the neoconservative, I would say, Biden administration, and you're also responsive to the left side of this debate. How do you expect that to unfold going forward, and how tricky is that balancing act for the Biden administration?
So far, the Biden administration has been clear that they support the protesters in the streets. They've sort of muddled the message at times, saying that it's about a response to COVID conditions, and then also it's about responding to wanting these universal freedoms. I would say earlier, I guess to Ryan's point, Pitbull might just be a rapper and a pop culture icon, but he certainly seems to have some skin in the game here and care about what's going on there. I guess it seems pretty clear to me at this point that the crackdown that the Cuban regime is engaged in right now is not just because their citizens are unruly, but because the people there want something more underlying. It's not just material conditions. I think that they're frustrated with the regime, and they have been for some time. This is interesting. It's going to put the Biden administration squarely in that debate that we were having during the Obama administration about the embargo and whether or not it should be lifted and whether or not remittances should be allowed.
Yeah, Andrew, what's your understanding of why Biden has taken such a harder line than Obama took on Cuba? Obama said, look, Obama would joke about it and say, look, it's been more than 50 years, enough. This embargo needs to go. We need to just have normal relations with the Cuban government, and if the Cuban people want a different form of government, let them come about that on their own without us forcing them into misery in order to bring it about. So why is Biden following Trump's lead in reversing Obama's a more open Cuba policy?
And I'll toss that to you, Andrew, with this the additional information from the State Department, which has been similarly following Biden's line, harsher than what you would have seen probably under the Obama administration. This is a statement from Ned Price. We know the world is watching as Cuban authorities arrest and beat dozens of their own citizens, and that includes journalists and independent voices, he told reporters Wednesday. We know that many remain missing. We join their families, Cuban human rights defenders, and people around the world in calling for the immediate release of those detained or missing for merely demanding freedom by exercising what is a universal right to free assembly and free expression.
Yeah, I think, guys, they're still trying to figure this one out. I mean, that's the honest assessment. I'm not a foreign policy expert here, but I do think there are a lot of political challenges that Democrats have to be very careful of here. We already saw how beat up we got in South Florida this past November. And it's something that if we don't figure out, how to get Cubans on board with our politics, we're going to be in trouble. DeSantis is going to cruise to victory. We're going to have those seats in South Florida continuing to be in trouble. So I don't really, to be honest with you, think that this is a lost cause. With Biden in his position here, I do think you could see some movement. I think it is very much we instill development, but I also think maybe they are trying to do an analysis of the Obama administration's policies, when he did loosen that embargo, try to begin normal relations with Cuba, and how that worked, and how Trump's hardline stance worked. But it does seem to me that the embargo is a big part of this problem, as Ryan said, in terms of not only tourism but getting aid to these folks in Cuba. And also, one of the things that I would have liked to hear Pitbull say, and again, we are not hearing it as strongly as I would like to hear from Ned Price and Jen Psaki, is calling out the communist oppressive regime that we're seeing in Cuba, especially as it relates to human rights. And I think there are a lot of dynamics at play here that not all of us know about, in terms, especially not me, but in terms of relations with Cuban allies, et cetera. How does that play into this? But I got to say, we can't drop the ball on this, or we're going to get screwed politically.
I think that's probably the answer to Ryan's question in terms of what the difference is between Obama and Biden on this issue, because Democrats are suddenly very frightened about what they've seen as Republican gains among certain sectors of the Hispanic community. That's probably what's going on in their brains.
I mean, Biden didn't get to go on the trip to Cuba to throw his arm around the Castro brothers and go watch a baseball game, with someone who had murdered his own people. He didn't get to stand in front of a giant portrait of Che Guevara. And so he was sort of spared from that. He didn't do that. Obama did. And so, I think that he saw the fallout in, what we've seen in voter demographics since then. And so he's not, at least making the same mistake, it would seem, politically.
I think it's a good point.
It is kind of sad how cynical it is to drive like an island full of people into misery in order to try to pick up a couple points on congressional races, when in fact the polls show that actually the Miami Cubans and South Florida Cubans are actually supportive of ending the embargo.
Right.
But it's just an outdated kind of understanding, 1980s, 1990s era understanding of what South Florida is.
It's absolutely cynical, the degree to which I think politics plays into this. We talked about that on the show yesterday. Absolutely no question about it.
We don't have an embargo with China. Why do we need to have an embargo with Cuba to hold them accountable?
I think a lot of people in the Biden administration are pondering that at this moment. Thank you both so much for your time today. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
We'll have more Rising for you after this.